So are we ready with our first question, Josh?
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's hear our first question.
Good morning, speakers and everyone. My name is Clarence. I'm a student in Monash University. I've been studying in Australia for 6 years now. And I grew up in Malaysia. And I studied in Malaysia until I finished Form 4. So, yeah, the question, so growing up in Malaysia, in the Malaysian teaching style, I realized that there's a lot of emphasis put into the final results, as in getting good grades. And when we make errors, we make mistakes, we get penalized. And or when we succeed, we kind of get this pressure from, let's say, our peers or our parents to even just to continue succeeding even more. So ultimately, I guess we tend to memorize our study material just to pass our exams or get full A's, everything A. But so with that kind of teaching style, I think many of our graduates, we lack our ability to actually critically think. And I guess my question is, how do you see this affecting the future, of Malaysia? Because the teaching style here is different to the teaching style in Malaysia, and that can bring up very, very different talents in generation. So, yeah, how do you think that will affect the future, and how do you suggest we can change that kind of teaching style or mindset?
So I have a mic here at the front, and I think there's another mic over there. I think we don't have enough mics to go around, so I think we have to share. Would anyone like to answer that question first? Mr. Patrick?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I've conducted quite a lot of interviews in the last couple of days, and what I see in many of the people that I have interviewed is glowing results, exam results, SPM, and after that in university, HD all the way. Then when you probe a little further, when you peel the onions, and you find that all they know is getting good results. When you try and kind of ask them questions in relation to general knowledge and all that, it's pretty, I guess in a sense, I sigh, because it's surprising that they don't know what's going on. I was just afraid that if I asked them, who's the Prime Minister of Malaysia, and tell me Mahathir, they don't I guess in a sense, read a newspaper and I guess in a sense understand what's going on around, and they're just very focused towards getting results, because parents want them to do well, and I think in their mind is getting good results is ability to get into good jobs in the future. That's something that we need to move on. I think the government has also come up with a new education blueprint, and it's going to be a big change, and hopefully to the right direction as well. I do believe, that's my personal opinion here, we have lost a generation. I think the education system, kind of I think I was a lucky one. I went to St. John's Institution. I think the teachers there were fantastic. I must also pay tribute to the Brits. They left a civil servant and a good education system. So I came from that generation where I had really good education, and that's where it brought me now. But more importantly, what do we do now? As an employer, we are also moving away from this instructing, teaching, and telling mode. We have embraced coaching and mentoring. So we have moved away from the good old Malaysian, Asian type of mode that, I will tell you what you need to do, you just follow the order. Doesn't matter whether you believe it's right or wrong, but I think that's the way to do it. So coaching is not easy because it's two ways. Coaching is about drawing the best out of the individuals that we have, ability to identify what makes them tick and what they have. Just like for example, we talk a lot about football. The good coaches like Jose Mourinho, Alex Ferguson, they are not good players, all right? But they're very good at identifying the right attributes and drawing it and bringing it out. So that's what we are doing as well. So at the moment, as employers, we have also changed our approach because of Gen Y and because of Gen X and all that. We are also educating the grandpa of our firm all right, because they came from the baby boomers. It's not easy because it's funny though, and I brought this up yesterday as well. The grandpas of they will always talk about the Gen Y so difficult to manage and all that. But when I see them talking to their kids, right, that's why the Gen Ys are like that. Because the way they treat their kids is like, oh, what do you want? They're telling them to stay back, in the countries that they're educated in. They're telling them about the crime rates. They're telling, and then when they come back and when they approach the Gen Y and say, you shouldn't leave, So it's really kind of I guess I wouldn't use the word hypocrite, but it's a little bit odd, to find that balance. So I've also been telling the grandpas of our firm and the grandmas of our firm that we need to make a change, all right? And hopefully we're heading towards the right direction.
I think what is difficult is to have a systemic change of the entire education system is very difficult. You can't change syllabus all of a sudden from memorizing to, that's really difficult. Singapore is struggling through that process right now. But one thing I think we can start doing is actually honor our teachers a bit more. I think one of the biggest challenges as a society and as a community is that we deem teaching as a low-level kind of job. And if you think about your own, and I'm just reflecting on my own time growing up, and I'm still growing. The teachers have been such an integral part of my education. I remember teachers from that year and that year and that year, and those guys shaped my life for life. And I have a good friend, quite a good few good friends. I went to St. Joseph's in Singapore, so go Catholic boys' schools. But I have a few good friends from St. Joseph's that actually end up becoming teachers, and they could have easily gone on to do other things. But they go to school dressed in Jedi outfits and shit like that. It's so cool, and I'm envious of their students, And it's not just that; it's that they really think through their teaching. And I think for me, it really does start with us being honest. Teachers are not low-level jobs. No, teachers are reserved for the best of us. And I think that's what we need to change in our own mindsets to actually begin this process. The systemic change, that one is very hard. That one takes time. That one takes bureaucracy. But culturally, from a values point of view, I think we can start with that.
So Jedi's in high school. I think my parents sent me to the wrong high school. Clarence, are you happy? Or would you like to have a follow-up question?
Can I add something here?
Yeah, sure, please.
Brother, two of us here. We are feeling a little bit left out.
Sorry, I'll let Murat say. Please.
So Ralph was very generous. He doesn't want to say anything. So better add something before you forget us entirely. And I need to add one other coach that you forgot to mention, Arsene Wenger. No, seriously speaking, the question is about the whole problem of youngsters not learning enough and the way they are being groomed in the local university. One of the reasons why we chose to come here to look for candidates here and also in the UK, and that's because unfortunately there's some truth to this comment. We find that those of you who have studied overseas for the last 3, 4, 5 years, you assimilate a different way of thinking, and you adopt a world person mentality, and you are more critical in the way you look at things. The ability to do critical thinking, the ability to ask the right question, to challenge the obvious. Those are the things that we are looking for. And unfortunately, sometimes I don't find that so often in our local universities and the people who are coming up from the local universities in Malaysia. I hate to say that because I'm an MU graduate. No, not interested in it. University of Malaya, right? And I'm proud of that. University of Malaya used to be the #1 university in Malaysia. Used to be top 50 in Malaysia too, in the world, sorry. Unfortunately today, we're very happy we are top 300. What has happened? Seriously speaking, I think yes, you can say there is a problem with the whole way in which students have been educated. Too much emphasis on the end product, too little emphasis on process. The challenge with our education system is not in the university, it's when they are still in the secondary school and primary school. and the school system that nurture and encourage people not to question. I have one little anecdotal exposure to this, and I don't feel offended, don't mean it to be in any way taken to be political. There was this little thing that I read in one of my Facebook page and posting. Here was someone who snapped a picture, a photograph, and uploaded it, an exam question in the school, right? And the question was, siapakah tokoh negara Malaysia? Identify somebody, you know. So those who put Najib, Muhyiddin, and all this, they got correct, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points. And those who put Anwar Ibrahim or Lim Kik Sian, or 0, 0. You know. I think this is emblematic. I'm not talking about politics here. I think it's emblematic of the way we are teaching our children. We're not encouraging them to think for themselves and to be free in their expression and to argue the facts. They're right and they're wrong. That's it. Black or white. There's no gray. And there's no room for you to disagree. And how are they going to grow up to be assertive? How are they going to grow up to be critical?
No, I think a lot have been said. This is my take. This is not the first time. And the reason why I didn't want to answer first, because I must tell you that it's not the first time I've been asked this question. And this is not the first time you have also discussed this issue. Let me put it this way. Sometimes I'm tired of listening to this. Personally, really tired. Because we talk about the issues forever and ever. But the key point is like what my fellow grandpa say here, is what can each and every one of us do in our own little bit, in our own little world, to make that change. And I think that is much more important than forever harping on this issue. I think the issue is well defined. It's so well defined to the extent that the government decided to come up with the education blueprint. If it's not so well defined, they wouldn't have come up with it, right? In any problem or issue that you have, the first step towards transformation and change will have to be an acknowledgement. And this matter has been clearly acknowledged and well defined. The bigger challenge now is how to move forward with it. And like I said earlier, and I truly believe in this, is the power of, is the talent, the power of people, the will of wanting to do some things, will of wanting to do things for the better. That will make the change. And I'll share this a little bit with you guys. And I think the other bit I learned over the years is there are a lot of things in your mind that you want to do things for the better. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. I want to do this, I want to be better. I want Liverpool to be better, playing better. But what I also learned is there are only certain things that are within your power that you can do a bit about it. And it's much more important and powerful to do that. Those are within your power, because those little bits and pieces will then become a collective effort of everybody. So in my little bit of things is we have a program. There were two things that EY does as part of our CSR program is education and entrepreneurship. We are only doing those two things because we don't have a lot of things that we can do. Our resources are constrained. I can't go and buy new players for Liverpool to be playing better, right? So I can't afford to sponsor Liverpool either. So what I do is I encourage our people to go and volunteer themselves in programs like CARE, which is the part of the Edge Foundation. We do British Council stuff. We do all kinds of things. These are education for the young, education for the less privileged. So our people in EY do that and they love it. Apart from the fact that they get time off from work, they also love it because I think they're doing so. What, in a way, and what we're trying to do is nurture these young guys to also be aware of the environment and what bits and pieces they can do to help make things better. I'm sorry I sound like grandfather, but you know, I over the years I think I've learned that sometimes rhetoric has to stop somewhere, and it's time to just do it. You know, like Nike, yeah, just do it. Yeah, forget talking too much about it. Let's go and do it. I think that, you know, it gives you so much more satisfaction as well when you start doing that.
Alright, let's hear the next question from Mr. Dharma.
Testing. So, hello, my name is Ahmad Zaki. Yeah, it's a pretty long question and it's partly in Malay, but I kind of adjusted the second part to be in English. So anyway, Assalamualaikum tuan, and may the peace of God be upon you. So the first part is for Dato, and the second part is open to the floor. So the first part, Wawasan 2020 merupakan impian Tun Mahathir untuk mewujudkan negara utopia di Malaysia. Antara maklumat Wawasan 2020 ialah perwujudan satu bangsa Malaysia dan sebuah ekonomi yang mengagihkan kekayaan secara adil kepada rakyatnya tanpa mengira kaum. Pada pendapat Datuk, adakah maklumat Tun akan dicapai dalam jangka masa yang ditetapkan? And the second part, this is only if Datuk answers no to the first part. What solutions does the floor think the private sector can bring to the table to solve these two issues without blood from being spilled? Thank you.
Dato, I will miss you.
Wow, difficult question. Zaki Aris is your name, eh? Oh.
Short form my name, yeah.
Sorry?
It's
Pseudonym?
My full name is Ahmad Zaki bin Muhammad Aris. I just shorten it.
Yeah, just like me. After Rauf Rashid, people call me Rauf. Actually, I'm buying time to think about. That's what grandpas do. Why are you not gonna get away with this forever? This grandma thing is gonna stick forever. And I'm going home and tell my guys I met this guy who talks about grandma, and the rest of the world. See, I'm buying time again. Oh, interesting question. It's a difficult one. In my opinion, will we get there? Now, you know why I say it's difficult is there are many dynamics in this whole thing, and I think the question you ask can be put into a PhD thesis. It's not a question that I can answer in a minute or two, as you know. But it's a good question nevertheless. But you know, like any problem or issue to be resolved, first and foremost is you've got to study the situation or the position that you're in. You know, I'm a consultant. I'm a chartered accountant and also an accountant. So if I were to advise a company about transformation and strategy, first thing that you need to do, I'm not sure whether any of you work before in an organization like that, is what people call current situation assessment. Yeah, you take a position assessment of where you are. Now, if I do that in this case, yeah, where we are is the first thing. So a lot has been said about where we are. And where we are, there are many facets to it. I know where what we're saying here about bangsa Malaysia, about what adil dan saksama kepada rakyat, and all those very, very powerful statement. But there are other bits and pieces in there that we must understand. The dynamics is around perhaps political stability. I'm just saying perhaps because I'm not an expert in this area, but this is probably a personal opinion. And I'm not trying to justify anybody here. This is something that I think from my personal standpoint, this is the position. Position is, we have a country, a multicultural society with a deep history of where each and every race originate from. Yeah? That's one. Two, we have a multicultural society which has got a population distribution or racial distribution which is in a way inequitable. You know, we have a huge number of one race, a smaller number of other races. Yeah? Three is, we have a democratic country where one vote carry or one person carry one vote. So if you think of all those, and if you study politics and economy, there are a few opposing dynamics there. Yeah? And that's something that needs to be understood. I'm not sure whether you're getting me or not. I'm a bit cryptic in a way. That's what my grandfathers do as well when they don't know how to answer it better. So, I suppose the challenge is, within those constraints, how do we make it work? That's the key. You cannot have economic development unless you have political stability. That's one general rule of thumb that nobody can deny. And that's the bit that I think in a way is hampering us a little bit towards where we want to go. But political stability, okay, don't get me wrong. Political stability doesn't mean that you have one powerful government and no opposition. No. Political stability is about having the equilibrium of having a facilitative government, or having a government which has got certain views and the way they want to do things. Okay? Because different government has got different views or different ways of doing things. Okay? And the opposition that ensures of the checks and balance. Once you have that equilibrium, then you have political stability. And that political stability will then help ensure that economic development is possible. Did I answer the question? Thank you. That was good. At least I tried to answer in a cryptic manner so that I don't offend anyone.
So is the answer yes or no?
Is the answer yes or no? Oh, okay, sorry. Adakah matlamat tun akan dicapai dalam jangka masa yang telah ditetapkan? That's 2020, is it? In my view, some parts of that ambition will be achieved. But there are a lot more things that we need to do. But how do we get there? I think a lot of positive thinking. If we drown ourselves with negatives, we're not going to get there. So we've got to take the positives and move on with it, and we've got to figure out how to address the negatives. And some of those are about racial disharmony. I think that's something that, and you know what? People talk about this racial disharmony and so on, and people always blame somebody else about it. Yeah? But where does it start? Where does it start? It starts with every single individual that we have in this room. You know, if I decide that I'm gonna not like someone because of his race, I'm not gonna contribute to any positive towards that. Yeah? But if we start by understanding the person, you know, just because a person is born that way, it doesn't mean that, you know, I just like you guys, I lived in the UK for 10 years before I went back to Malaysia. I've been a foreigner in a foreign country. But you know what I got out of it is, I look at the positive things. You know, I've been treated by British in a way that I can say, you know, of them being racist. Yes, I have. You know, but do I drown myself in worry over it? No, right? Because what's the point? What is the point? You know, But what I decided to do is I took it as a lesson learned in life and make sure that I don't repeat the same thing. I think that's key. So understanding dynamics, being positive about things. Will we get there? We'll get to certain things by 2020, but I think there's a lot more things that we can do better by then, hopefully. But now is 2013, 7 years. Let me see, where was I 7 years ago? I wouldn't say that it's impossible. If everybody puts themselves, together as a team and get it done, I think it will be done. 2013, and so it's what? 7 years. So 2006. I was trying to see where we were in 2006 and how far we've gone to in 7 years. And I think it's not impossible. Personal view, it's not impossible. But it needs each and every one of us to think about it positively and to work toward the same goal.
Yeah, that's all. I'm going to jump in right there because we're running a little bit short on time. Sorry, gentlemen, I'm sure you want to jump on and tackle this complicated question as well, but I think we got to move on to our next RSA question. Sorry,
You
guys.
really don't want us to comment further?
20 maybe a 20-second comment. Would you like to? It's a pretty tough question.
I think honestly, this question is not a problem that you and I face. I think for all of us, we have no issue with working together, living together, playing together. When I was growing up, I have Malay friends, I have Chinese friends, and Indian friends. We play with each other, and that's never an issue. So, if we think along that line, what's the problem? The problem is not with us. So don't let some other external forces play it out. My suggestion to you and I is, let's take the initiative to make the difference. If you haven't got many Malay friends as a Chinese, please go and get yourself. If you don't have many Chinese friends as a Malay, please go and get some Chinese friends and get to know them. And that's the only way we can start getting to become one nation. It's not the politicians. I think the politicians make things worse. I honestly think they make things worse. What you think is, you and I, we are Malaysia. Don't listen to all this crap out there. We are Malaysia. And if you and I want to make this happen, you and I have to do it at the grassroots level. I want to close with this little anecdote that I had. I hate anecdote. I watched this little video clip on Hari Malaysia, which was done by this guy called Pitio. Yes, yeah. It's a tribute to Tunku Abdul Rahman. And the one thing that struck, of course, there were a lot of cameos by current well-known celebrities inside the video. But the one thing that struck me was that bit where the Malay boy, the Chinese boy, the Indian boy, on a little car together and went off flying the Malaysian flag. We are Malaysia. We can make a difference. This is our country. Don't let anybody hijack that. Yeah.
Let's have our last RSA question before we open the Q&A session to the floor.
Cool. Hi, my name is Josh from Marseille. When we partnered up with Matt to provide a build-up conversation towards the summit, sort of crowdsource quality questions for the summit, thanks to the beauty of the internet, we managed to tap into people from all over the world. And actually, this question is actually from an editor from Esquire, Malaysia, and his name is John Chew. So I'm just representing him to sort of deliver his question and potentially ask a follow-up conversation. So his question was, according to a World Bank report in 2011, the number of skilled Malaysians living abroad rose 300% in the last 2 decades. Now, 2 out of every 10 Malaysians with tertiary education are leaving to either organizations for economic cooperation and development, OECD countries, which stands at 34 nations, or Singapore. In your estimation, why are skilled, smart Malaysians living Malaysia in increasing rates just over the last 4 to 5 years? What is the key problem that has arisen recently to give this trend? I think this question is open to the floor.
There's a mic over here as well.
What is the key problem? What's the a problem. Asians living and going elsewhere. Why do you look at it as a problem? Any developed nation in the world, I mean, you go everywhere else, there will be people leaving the country. I left the country when I was 18. I worked in the UK for a while, but I went back. So, but I don't think it's a problem.
I mean, most of us are into good living, into wanting, I guess in a sense, a safe country to live in. And when we fix all these problems, I can assure you, whoever they are, living anywhere, four corners of the world, if Malaysia becomes a country that we have that Vision 2020, people will come back. We have a lot of problems in terms of all that. We also have problems with exchange as well. I mean, tell you frankly, you work in Singapore, you get 2.5 times more. All right, and you work in Malaysia, you have that less. So when I was actually in Singapore a few years ago, and I wasn't married then, first of all, the partner of mine said that you can't walk around and the girls are not interested in you because they divide you by 2.5 and they're not interested. So that's an issue. So if we get all that stuff fixed, I can assure you, naturally, we will not need to do this talk. We will have to then say, hey, I'm sorry, you've given up your citizenship, we don't need you anymore. It will come back automatically.
Just a few words to say. Have you guys not read the Telecom website? Right? Very informative for this question. A lot of three main reasons, right, Joanne? Yeah. I've read it. But I think to the brain drain issue is not an issue just from the numbers perspective. If you only look at the numbers, but if you look at the reasons people are leaving Malaysia, I think that's where it's alarming. The reasons people are leaving is because it's unsafe. It is the opportunities are limited simply because of the culture. I mean, these are the kind of reasons that you go and you look at it and you go, not good brain drain. And I think that's to tackle this issue is a very I really don't know how to do it from a corporate perspective because I'm not a corporate guy. But really, it's not about selling the prospect of being able to make more money. It is actually, all my family actually, they were like, why are you so stupid? Why you go back to Malaysia for what? And it just, I have to fight that kind of those kind of voices to even go back. I have so many friends who say, hey, you stay, I said my friend's father to him, I send you overseas so you can stay there, don't come back. And I think this is the kind of problem that we have. And in the last couple of years, because of our parents, the political instability that they perceive that's happening in Malaysia, they are in increasing numbers telling their children to stay abroad, if they can. And especially with the PR rules, I think relaxing a bit more these few years, or these last 1 or 2 years, I think even more so. Is there anything that we can really do? I really believe we just have to sell vision, we have to sell the possibility of change. And I think that if you don't do that, it's really not gonna, you're not gonna reverse this trend. Reverse is a big hope. I think even just to I think I admire what Johan does with the work that bringing back. Even though people have criticized the numbers, it's not just about numbers. It is about selling something a bit more than that. So
I had the chance to migrate early on. I turned down the opportunity. I believe it's good for people to be working persons. The opportunity to travel the world, work in different places, give you fantastic exposure that you can never get elsewhere. Working in Malaysia alone is not going to be good enough. World persons, you should become. But you're Malaysian. That's your home. And if we are not going to be concerned about our home, who's going to be concerned about home? So I'm not going to address it from an economic perspective. I see it is very close to my heart, something that I care very deeply about. If Malaysians who are capable all leave the country because they think that this country is not good enough for them, then I think you are not good enough for the country. Right? I think each one of us, every one of us has a responsibility to make Malaysia what it's supposed to be and what it can become. And it can become a very great nation if you and I are willing to make the effort to make the difference. I share with you this because I believe firmly that you and I can make Malaysia a different place. If you all work.
Anything more to add, gentlemen? Okay. Thank you, B. For, oh, yes.
Sorry, could I just add a follow-up question really quickly? I think I really resonate with what Mr. Lai said earlier on. Just for a follow-up question from John, I think I see all of you as all potential employers back in Malaysia, and in the scope of whether it's an industry level or a general level, do you think there is a large enough supply of skilled Malaysians in the country right now to meet the demand?
Holding the mic. For engineering, for construction, we are scraping the barrel very seriously. And especially people with railway, metro, infra experience are not enough.
I interviewed so many people when I started my office in Malaysia, and it was so difficult to find good people. And I think as tech startup, huge demand for good people right now. And the great thing is that we're willing to be invested in your personal growth, as opposed to just putting you through a ladder.
I would echo the same thing. You know, Patrick and I fought with each other all the time to get good people.
Anything to add, Patrick?
Seriously, I mean, talking about first year, it's easy. Getting talent, bringing them back is simple, in the first couple of years. Retaining talent is our main challenge, and we are still struggling with that. If we recruit 100 individuals on year one itself, after 7 years, we only have one standing. And that is our main challenge, and I do hope that we'll be able to address that, not just in terms of people leaving the country, but of course, for us, it's also leaving the profession.
I know I'm not a speaker myself, but I think I can speak for my father, who's working with Oracle. He mentioned a lot of times, especially during the job recruiting process, that a lot of the local Malaysians don't have that kind of critical thinking mindset that is cultivated overseas, that he kind of looks for in prospective employees. So I think that's something that we can definitely work on for future prospects. Now we'll open the Q&A session to the floor. Thank you so much for being so patient. Just so you know, you have 2 minutes for your question, and you are welcome to address the question to anyone out. And I think people on the MAT team are handing out mics.
Yeah. Hi guys, good morning. My name is Midi, I'm from Monash University. So just to build up from the question from the gentleman over there on the issue of fair allocations of wealth for every Malaysian, right? So just last month, Najib's government has approved a policy whereby they will set out almost 10 billion ringgit Malaysia in unit trust in training and educating the Malays, and also 700 million to train the young Malay entrepreneur. So if you want to talk about the trend right now, I don't think that it's moving towards fair allocation. But my question is not concerning in that matter. My question is, what role can be played by corporate groups in this decision, in this policy discussion? Is there any room for corporate groups to consult the government regarding this matter? Because I am fortunate to take a close study on tax policy in Australia, and it is suggested that the corporate groups have a very much to say when it comes to GST, and it leads to the implementation of GST for more efficient tax policy. So my question, what roles can be taken by the corporate group in Malaysia in addressing inefficient, if there is any, economic policy in Malaysia? That's all. Thank you.
Before you answer, Victor, can we keep a close track on the time for the questions, because I think we want to make sure that we get everyone in the room heard. Any takers for this question?
It's a bit unfair that you always get wrong. We get a more difficult question. What role can corporate Malaysia does? I think it's not a question what role can we do. We've been playing that role, and I think most corporate Malaysia are already playing that role. I don't think any of these policy have direct implication on the way corporate Malaysia does business. Maybe that's another way of putting it. we have 2,600 people in EY. Our distribution, I don't know what our ratio distribution is, to be honest, because we don't really track it that much. Yeah. So that probably answer the question that you asked. Do we track racial distribution? Maybe once every 3, 4, 5 years, just to make sure we don't go skewed elsewhere. But a lot when Sufan and team interview people, there's no checklist that says race. No. In a lot of corporate Malaysia, I don't think there's such thing. It's all about critical thinking, qualification, personal initiative and stuff like that. The normal CBI stuff. And that's the reality. So if you ever, competency. So if you ever think, and I'm sure Tamim will share this better because you're in his line. If you ever think that there is such thing, I don't think so. In reality, corporate Malaysia, you just look totally on competency and whether the person can deliver the job or not.
Anything else to add? Okay, I think we have time for one more question. I believe the first hand to come up was over there. At the front. Minon? Yep. I believe your hand came up first. Why don't you take the last question?
Just a quick question, because you mentioned earlier about the long hours of productivity, I thought you could enlighten us about that quickly. And just the last one, because there's a lot of talk about our national deficit and how we just got downgraded by all the ratings agencies, is that really such a big deal in terms of our national deficit and how that plays in our economic environment? Yeah.
I'll take the second one first, the one easier. We've not been downgraded by anyone. In fact, I think it's a good alert, because it put the government on the watch. If they don't do something right in this next budget, they will be downgraded. I don't want to know. We just have a negative outlook. It's a totally different thing. Yeah, negative outlook means, hello, if you don't do something about it, I think you might go into a downward spiral on certain, the public finances, public finance matters. The bit that was never said anywhere was the fact that, even before that alert, everybody knows about it. GST came about, we talk about GST for, why? Because we hired GST specialists in EY for the last 4 years, maybe at least, because we are preparing to help implement it in the country. Why do we have GST? Because we know public finances has to be sorted out. If you have GST, you have a broader tax base. The problem with us is we have 29 million population, and only about 2 million are paying taxes. I'm included. So I'm not happy. Because I pay a lot of taxes when somebody else don't. I don't know why they don't. To me it's a moral and a civil responsibility. It's not just about the law. It's more than that. It's about distributing your wealth to the rest as well. Okay? Sorry, the first question, which is a very interesting one. Again, low productivity and long hours is a question that you can write a thesis on, because of the various bits of dynamics around it. So you ask me, in our line of work, the main reason why we work long hours is not because we don't have enough people. No, I don't. Maybe a little bit of that. But the bigger issue is we don't have the right people. If we have the right people across the whole economy, we can do things better. How to get there? You can look at it over short term and you look over the long term. The longer term view is we've got to sort out the education policy, and that's being done. The shorter term view is we've got to grab whatever we can now and work on it. There's no point thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do this better and so on. No, we've got to look at it. The immediate term is we've got to grab whatever we have. So what do? I've said to my HR guys, look, if we're going to get the perfect candidate for EY, we probably will never get 350 of them that we recruit every year. No, we won't. but we probably have hopefully about 100 or 200 or whatever. But the rest of them are the ones that we think if we can bring them in and we can make them better within the organization. So what do? We have to invest in training. So corporate Malaysia invests in training as well. And is that a problem? No, because we have facilitative policy by the government that allows us to claim double taxation, double tax relief on certain things. We come over here, actually we get double tax relief for the expenses. You know, why not? You know, these are good things that we should grab and do something about it. Yeah.
Although I don't understand why interns from overseas universities coming back to do internship with us, Johan, don't get double tax deduction agreement assistance. You know, I mean I raised it with John before, and I know his hands are tied as well. You guys come back to work with us for internship, don't give us double tax deduction assistance. Strange, right? And we're trying to get you guys to come back. For overseas grads, no. Ours is 10 weeks. Oh, internship program at least 10 weeks. You want to comment on that? You want?
The thing is, not all those who are studying overseas will want to do a 10 weeks internship. So sometimes they only have to take breaks. So that's why they are not able to cut it off. They cut it short.
Maybe I am
Spend time with family.
in any case.
Anything more to add? Well, through the power of technology, the MAP team has told me we can take one more question. Great technology.
Good afternoon all, my name's Peter Cooper, and perhaps my question is a little bit more of a comment or a reflection. I grew up in Malaysia. I grew up in Kampong Lawas in Sarawak in the 5th Division, and went to school in Jesselton. Went to the Tanjung Aru Primary School and been to All Saints at Lucas. And I finished my schooling in Australia, my high school. So I reflected very much on the first question about education, because my first teacher was Miss Wong. And Miss Wong was a very rigid, formidable lady who, when I met her about 10 years ago, was 4'11". And she taught me very, very formally, very, very formally. At the same time, I was left-handed and she never bothered about that. So in her own way, she was radical, and she left me a legacy, which of course was not to impede a little boy's neurological development. And my schooling ended with a Mr. Ross, and Mr. Ross was a history teacher. And Mr. Ross was a maverick. He'd been kicked out of Austria in 1936 when the Nazis came in. He'd found his way to Spain, and he'd even got kicked out of Switzerland along the way. And he taught me in history two things: learn to love the original documents and understand all human beings are the same and are motivated by the same things throughout history. So as a solicitor, I bless Miss Wong every day for her rigidity and formality and spellings and all those things. And also take a magic carpet ride on the original documents whenever I do a court case. I want to tell in a Borneo way, just to reflect on the 2020 question, the middle question, and that is just to say that, and I'm going to do it in a very Borneo way by telling a story about myself. And Sir, you said it just as well, but one day I went to the doctor. I was feeling run down and my blood showed some deficiencies, and he said, "How do you eat?" I said, "I eat very well." And then he asked me two questions: what did you have for breakfast this morning, and what did you have for dinner last night? And so the question is, what will we do about it? Will we live in our delusion that I eat well, or will I just address the issues that came from my inadequate diet? Thank you.
Is there anything any of us would like to add?
Nope. I think we will. That's a good one.
Right. Right, so thank you everyone for participating. I think I'm going to hand control over to Alia and Andrew. First of all, I'd like to thank 4 speakers. I think they deserve a real huge round as well.
Thank you to all speakers for an insightful session. Just a quick summary of the session.
Alright. So Dr. Rao believes that the cooperation between governmental and private sectors, driven by Pemandu to meet national key economic areas set inside the GDP, is the way forward.